Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. On April 14th, the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District Board of Directors meeting was held in conjunction with the Citizens Advisory Committee to discuss a resource recovery program feasibility study. District Director Tom McGlasson explained that the goal of the joint meeting is to get the Citizens Advisory Committee's input on the study before the board makes a final decision.
And this is something that the board has previously looked at, where the City of Bloomington Utilities is asking for some collaboration and financial assistance to conduct a feasibility study on installing an anaerobic digester at their Blucher Pool wastewater treatment plant. This would be a facility that would accept food waste, fats, oils, and grease, and through the anaerobic digestion process would create a what's called a biogas that can be used as a heat source to generate electricity, or sold back onto the gas pipelines if it's cleaned up a little bit. Additionally, there is a solid waste byproduct out of it that can be land applied as a soil amendment or a fertilizer. So there are some beneficial products that come out of the anaerobic digester process. And again, this is just to fund a study to see if it's feasible to install such a facility at the Blucher Pool wastewater treatment plant. And it is something that would that would divert materials currently going to a landfill from going to a landfill and using them in essence as a waste to energy fuel. So there is some benefit to it, and then that would be something that would align with the district's mission and some of the district's goals. I think like I said, this has been discussed previously, and I think the board has delayed action on it due to a desire to have a discussion, get input from the CAC, which is the purpose of this joint meeting.
CAC Chairperson Joseph Winia spoke, expressing concern over the financial aspect of the study.
And I know that the discussion is for half of the cost of the feasibility study, which equates to about $65,000. But I think it's important to take the full project cost into account now for this decision. And that's because at the March 10th meeting, Director Kelson made some remarks that really shaped how I think the project should be considered. And to paraphrase it, he said, once the study is complete, it will take a county-wide, community-wide effort to decide whether we want to do it or not. And I don't see this project I don't see this as a project that would be a City of Bloomington Utilities project. I see it as a county-wide project, and paraphrase. So knowing that even after the feasibility study, it will require the support of the full community and most likely the district as well, I think it would only be logical to contribute to the study now if the district also intends to contribute to the installation of the biodigester if deemed feasible. So with that framework in mind, considering the full project involvement, I want to point out that while the biodigester does align with the district's mission statement to reduce the amount of final waste going to disposal, it doesn't figure into the recommendations of the 2018 Kessler Organics Waste Recovery Analysis recommendations, which instead states that it requires significantly more capital investment and higher operational costs than windrow composting, but also that it doesn't really closely align with the goals and objectives of the 5-year management plan either.
Director of Bloomington Utilities, Vic Kelson, explained why collaboration is important now during the study, rather than just waiting until the anaerobic biodigester is being built.
So it is not a CBU project. It is a solid waste project that would require cooperative participation from a number of entities. Solid Waste Management District, City Public Works, maybe some investor-owned organizations, the university, the public schools, hospitals, et cetera, like that. So an initiative like this is bigger than just the utilities department and our little 6 million gallon per day treatment plant. So this is a way of just putting your marker down and saying, let's all talk about this. We're not going to build it by ourselves. It's going to have to be something that would be done in partnership with others. So we'd like to have that partnership as we start the investigation so that everybody's questions get answered as we go through the process. That it's not simply me worrying about grease and wastewater solids.
The vote to enter a memorandum of understanding between the City of Bloomington Utilities and Monroe County Solid Waste Management District on the anaerobic digester feasibility study passed, contingent upon legal counsel the district has yet to receive. The two organizations will meet again on April 21st to continue discussing the study. At the Monroe County Commissioners meeting on April 13th, Executive Director of Area 10 Agency on Aging, Chris Myers, asked the commissioners to approve a grant for public rural transportation. Myers shared that the grant would help fund new buses.
We've been providing the public transportation through rural transit, the FTA 5311 program operation funds for like 35 years. We cover Monroe, Owen, Putnam, and Lawrence counties, and this is for anybody to ride. So it's not just for the older population or the disabled population, though that is a misconception because our organization focuses on that, but it is a public transportation program. This is the operating grant that's due for 2023, so January through December. The allocation for the FTA allocation is $891,641. The total budget would be $1,830,587, of which $70,000 is expected for fares. So that's what we're asking for in renewal for our application. Part of that is local match. We have local match from the Monroe County Commissioners. We also have it from the Lawrence County Commissioners, Putnam County Commissioners, and the town of Spencer, and then other local support that we have for that.
Myers said that they are also short on bus drivers.
I did want to just give an update that we are short drivers in Monroe County, 3 full-time and 2 part-time. So that's not insignificant for us either. We're still meeting demand for the most part because demand is still returning from the pandemic period, which is good considering our bus and our driver situation, but hopefully everything will be back soon.
The commissioners approved the grant unanimously. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
There for me, every day.
Believing in me, showing me what's possible,
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body.
to say I can rather than I can't,
to say no with no apology,
To be a leader.
to finish school,
to own my future.
To break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner,
With you in my corner, I will not be another statistic.
I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to CATSweek. The Bloomington City Council continued discussing the local income tax at their Committee of the Whole meeting on April 13th. Mayor John Hamilton presented on the proposed local income tax increase. He explained that the increase in revenue from the tax would fund 4 categories: public safety, climate change preparedness and mitigation, equity and quality of life for all, and essential city services.
I appreciate very much your consideration and collaboration on this really important issue to move us forward. We have followed your suggestions of the past couple of years by, in this process, beginning our work not with a particular rate, but by identifying the needs of the community and how to meet those needs, and then calculating an ED-lit local income tax rate that allows us to meet those needs. I will briefly summarize the proposal for you and the public watching, then again hear from our controller and our corporate counsel to outline basic financial and procedural points. We're proposing new revenue based on 4 categories, 4 buckets, if you will, of critical community needs. 2 buckets focus on present pressing needs for city government directly to serve our residents: public safety and essential services. Public safety needs include salary costs under the recently negotiated Fraternal Order of Police contingent contract, as well as supportive services and critical facility upgrades for fire and police. Essential service needs include clear pressures to increase support for all our other city personnel, as well as deferred and ongoing basic maintenance needs and very real cost increases for supplies and services, as well as inexorable revenue declines in certain areas. 2 of the buckets focus on meeting critical future community needs: climate change and equity and quality of life. Regarding the emergency of climate change and the need to mitigate, adapt, and develop resilience, we are proposing significant enhancements to our state-leading public transit system, as well as dedicated annual funding to implement our progressive climate action plan. Regarding equity and quality of life, we are proposing significant investments in improving access to safe and quality housing across our city, both ownership and rental, as well as helping people access good jobs and continuing traditional support for our arts and local food sectors. Finally, we are earmarking funds to help those taxpayers who may face challenges from the LIT itself, an economic equity fund to support those in need.
City Controller Jeff Underwood warned that the budget is scrupulous as it is, and without adding additional revenue, they might be forced to make budget cuts that they do not want to make.
We don't have a lot of disposable costs that we can get rid of that you would be happy that we would get rid of, and those would be the forward-facing, outward programs that we go to help the public with. Beyond that, then we're looking at personnel. And I don't want to sound alarmist, but it's true. We have to look at that, and the most valuable resource that we have are people. And we have increasingly seen that we're no longer able to operate like government did 20 years ago. 20 years ago, government's benefits were by far the best that we had that could be offered in public or private. And the benefit of longevity with it allowed us to pay a lesser amount. But everyone's caught up with us, and those benefits are equal or better than what even we can do anymore. And we're seeing people get pulled away for better paying jobs across every function inside the city. So that structural need to fund our budget, to keep good people, to be competitive, to attract the best and the brightest to come work in city government. Because there's a lot of reasons people don't want to do that anymore. It's been called the Great Exodus, is we have to have the ability to pay those people and to fund their operations. And I would ask you to approve this increase, and none of us take it lightly to ask you for that. So thank you. I'll turn it over to Beth Kate now. Thank you.
Councilmember Isabel Piedmont Smith asked how the Economic Equity Fund would be distributed. Mayor John Hamilton responded.
I think the first thing I would say is that it begins, that Economic Equity Fund, as a statement of commitment and intention to state that when we do put a tax increase in place, we are going to earmark and identify in this proposal in front of you $1 million to do that kind of support. We don't have an exact program. We're happy to work with you on that. We're looking at things like potential individual development accounts, which can be it's a long-standing program used around the country to help people save, matching savings. We would look to coordinate with the Community Action Program Agency, the United Way Agency, Jap Hawkins funds. There's lots of options for that, and we're willing and very eager to look at exactly the most effective way to do it. But what we're doing with this is stating that at least this part of the tax increase would be dedicated to that purpose, and we'll do whatever works best in terms of accomplishing that.
Piedmont Smith said that she is still concerned that the constituents will not know how to access the funds, even if they are set aside.
I guess when I talk with people who are worried about their household budget because of this increase, it's hard for me to say, well, we have $1 million and it'll help you, without knowing how is it going to help them.
Councilmember Jim Sims was in favor of increasing the tax and said that he thinks the council will be able to reach a consensus on the amount.
And if we keep talking, I think we'll be able to do a package I think we can all live with. I hope so. I'd also like to hear other things later, a little bit more later, about the Green River panel and where that still might fit. Is that here, or is that funded from some things we've already approved? Or I do support climate initiatives and climate change and that sort of thing. But I am convinced that if we don't broaden our scope and make it more of a regional effort, then a lot of the things that we're going to do is just for naught. I mean, we'll like ourselves, we'll be great because we've done all this. But outside of that scope, what did we really do? So I'm not so sure what we can do, but I do know that we can begin conversations. We can use that green panel committee to extend. We've just put another position in ESD, and I think we'll utilize that for some of those same purposes. But that's what I want to hear moving forward. How do we broaden, in particular with climate change and some of those initiatives?
The council will have a public hearing on the local income tax on April 20th. On April 12th, at the Bloomington Board of Public Works meeting, Assistant City Attorney Daniel Dixon requested that the board approve the partial demolition of the Johnson Creamery smokestack.
I'm here tonight with John Zodi and Mike Arnold from the Hand Department, and presenting and requesting the board affirm the March 11th, 2022 modified unsafe order to partially demolish the Johnson Creamery smokestack. For some background, the Hand Department first started taking action on this property back around December of 2021, following some increased reports about spalling brick falling off of the smokestack and landing in the area around that. At that point, the city decided that under the statute, the smokestack met the definition for unsafe as it posed a threat to persons or property, and issued an order to repair. That initial order to repair resulted in some additional studies by a group called RC Engineering, kind of at the behest of the property owner and also city hand staff. That report came back to us on March 1st, 2022, and revealed a fair amount of additional information about the condition of the smokestack. That report is also included in the packet, and I apologize for the length that that takes up. But it is a very thorough report, and I think explains the condition very well. Essentially, the sort of bird's eye view of the report is the smokestack is unsafe. It needs to be reduced to a height not to exceed 60 feet in order for it to be stable to comply with code.
Dixon informed the board that the City Council and the Historic Preservation Commission already approved the partial demolition and explained the board's involvement in the decision.
And so this is kind of that last piece of the puzzle, is to make this a final order. And to give some context about why I'm here talking to you about this order now, there are certain types of unsafe orders that do not require hearing before the Board of Public Works. Those are things like orders to repair or orders to seal structures that may be, subject to intrusion by weather or rats or something else. Those don't typically require a hearing unless the owner requests one. And then there are certain orders that do require hearings in front of the Board of Public Works for you all to have an opportunity to review them and either affirm or modify. Because this is an order to demolish, the Indiana Code requires that we present this to you and request that you affirm our order. And so that is what we are doing tonight, and we are happy to answer any questions you have.
The board voted unanimously to approve the unsafe order to repair. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the CASAs to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to CATSweek. At the Bloomington Utilities Service Board meeting on April 11th, Assistant Director of Engineering Brad Schrader presented a contract for a culvert inspection.
This is a contract with Donahue and Associates to go in and inspect the culvert. This was actually the culvert that was replaced back in the 2003 project. We're getting failure of the concrete and exposed rebar underneath the culvert, so we need Donahue to go in and do a structural inspection of that and see what kind of repairs are necessary to do. So Donahue is the original designer, and they're able to do the inspection, so that's what this contract's about.
The board unanimously voted to approve the agreement with Donahue and Associates. At the Ellisville Town Council meeting on April 11th, Council President Pamela Samples announced that she will step down from her position.
Okay, before we get started, I just wanted to let you all know that I am stepping down as president. Just my life has just got a lot of business going on that I don't feel like I have the time to do what's needed for a president. So I just want to clear that up before rumors start flying around. Okay, so William's taking over.
Vice President William Ellis will serve as president moving forward. Councilmember Trevor Sager was nominated for vice president. The nomination passed unanimously. Later, the council discussed increasing the rates and charges for water services. Town Attorney Darla Brown outlined why the rate increase is necessary.
As the council is aware, the city Bloomington utilities increased their water rates, and since the town buys its water from the city, the town had to increase its rates as well. And so that's called, when you piggyback, for lack of a better word, on another utility, that's called a tracking factor. And Baker Tilly petitioned the IURC under what's called a 30-day filing to increase the rates to make them commensurate with what the city of Bloomington was charging or increasing the town's rates, and that 30-day tracking factor was approved. That resulted in, approved by the IURC last week, and so what that means is there's a tracking factor of 85 cents per 1,000 gallons. So what that means for the town's ordinance is that will increase the tap and meter installation charges. It will increase the monthly water usage charges and the minimum monthly charges. It does not affect some of the other things in the town code, such as the municipal hydrant charges, the automatic sprinkler charges, reconnection charges, late payment fees, insufficient funds charges, and the meter deposits. So what you have before you is a new ordinance to adopt those new rates and charges pursuant to the IURC's approval of the rate tracking factor.
Councilmember Dan Swafford asked what the rate would be after the increase. Utilities Director Jeff Farmer responded, saying it will be $6.33 per 1,000 gallons.
The rate per 1,000 gallons is going to go from $5.48 to $6.33.
Councilmember Scott Oldham said that the information should be made available on the town website for the public to see. The council will vote on the ordinance at their next meeting. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.